isn't so very long ago that ministers used to boast about the success of British universities in attracting students from all over the world. Not now. Universities are accused of being over-dependent on the income from foreign students, allowing students from abroad paying those higher fees, easier routes to enter courses, and bringing over large numbers of dependents, increasing the net migration figure. The government's pledged to stop postgrads bringing their family members to Britain. But new figures out today suggest that the number of international students is not falling. It's risen just a bit, although it doesn't include postgrads. So what really is going on, and what should we want to go on in our university sectors? Let's talk to the former Higher Education and Universities Minister, Jo Johnson, who's now visiting professor at King's College. Lord Johnson, morning to you. And Dr. Mike Jones joins us as well, Executive Director of the campaigning group Migration Watch. Morning to you, Dr. Jones.
Morning.
What do you think when you look at these figures, Dr. Jones? They are still just up, aren't they, for undergraduates, 0.7%. Do you want to see them come down, and if so, why?
Yes, I want to see the numbers come down for two reasons. First, there's an issue of academic standards. We know through an investigative report published by the Sunday Times that Britain's top universities are paying middlemen to recruit overseas students onto courses with entry grades as low as a handful of C grades at GCSE. Meanwhile, their British counterparts are left knocking at the door, stamped with the A and A star seal of excellence. The second reason why I want the numbers to come down is due to the impact on the housing market. In 2023, student rental prices increased by 8%, and the growth in the number of available beds has slowed to just 1%. And, foreign students will obviously put an upward pressure on student housing rents.
OK,
and
let's take those one at a time. Let's go to Jo Johnson to respond to that. Dumbing down is the charge. We heard from Universities UK earlier say that this was the Sunday Times investigation about access courses, not about the degrees themselves. But what's your answer to the overall charge of dumbing down to get the cash in?
I think the first thing to say is international students bring enormous benefits to the UK economically, socially, culturally, and we're very lucky to have them. We shouldn't be wanting to drive numbers down. Other countries look at our success in attracting international students and are hugely envious. But look, to the point about quality and standards, the Sunday Times investigation did raise questions, and Universities UK and the sector as a whole are right to be taking it extremely seriously. There is a review of comparable admissions going on to ensure that there is a level playing field for foreign applicants and domestic applicants, and that there isn't a low quality backdoor into the sector. That's really important to restore public confidence in the idea that foreign students and domestic students are complementary, with foreign students creating huge economic value that enables universities to put on courses that wouldn't otherwise be offered to domestic students at all.
Let's turn, if you could, to the wider point that Dr. Jones is making about the, to put it rather crudely, but the fact is if you get more and more students, if net migration is going up as rapidly as it is, the country just gets too full. It gets overcrowded. There aren't the homes, there aren't the public services we need.
I think it's really crucial to take into account that the government has announced a number of measures recently which are having a very material impact on applications to the UK. These UCAS figures, which you referenced earlier, are very partial. They relate only to undergrads, and we are very early on in the recruitment cycle. And we have 5 or 6 months to go in the recruitment cycle. And what we saw last year was that there was a very big decline from the number of applications that translated into actual enrolments. And the number of undergraduate students actually fell 11% last year.
Well, let me put that to Dr. Jones.
To 115,000.
Dr. Jones of Migration Watch, measures have been taken, the argument goes, and these figures are just a snapshot. And if you look at the numbers who actually go to university, they will start to fall, we're being told.
Well, before the points-based system was introduced, the levels of student visas were around, sort of 400,000. Yet that jumped to over 600,000 in a few years. I mean, expanding the student visa scheme is part of government policy. India and Nigeria have been identified as key markets. There's this graduate visa route that allows graduates to stay in the UK for up to 2 years after they've graduated, and
But
obviously,
why is that a bad thing, Dr. Jones? We just heard from Joe Johnson. Good for the economy, good for culture, good for trade. Why are you saying it's a bad thing for people to come here and study?
oh, well, I'm not saying that. I mean, you've got to remember, I spent a considerable amount of my life in the higher education sector, and yeah, there are definite economic benefits to having foreign students here. They contribute to local businesses, they enrich campus life.
Give me your but in
and
a
so on.
sentence, if you would, because we're running out of time. What's your but?
But the increase in population, the pressure on housing, and the debasement of standards, there has to be a limit, there has to be a cap.
Dr. Mike Jones, I asked for a sentence. You very kindly gave me one from Migration Watch. Joe Johnson, former Higher Education Minister, thanks for joining us.